ConnorG is getting old, guys. Unc is 26 going on 60. And I think I'm growing tired of all this tomfoolery on these little bikes. I think it's time that we get a respectable commuter. Something to take me to the diner at 4 a.m. for the early bird special during the week, but also bingo on the weekend. Well, I present to you the Milad DK300 Max. What appears to be your pretty standard Chinese Amazon-style e-bike. Except is it? Because right off the bat, I notice it's got a much longer swing arm than what we usually see. It's a lot taller, and I'm 7'8", and the seat is way more comfortable than any of these style e-bikes that I've sat on so far. Now, it's running dual 2,000 watt hub motors front and rear, though it actually has a surprising amount of torque. The bike comes with not one, but two removable 48 volt, 20 amp hour batteries, and depending on how you ride, they claim a range upwards of 150 miles. 150 miles. Maybe if you pedal for an extra 50 or 100, but I don't know, we'll see. It rolls on 20x4 fat tires that are puncture resistant, so you can take it pretty much on-road, off-road, wherever, without worry. Brakes seem pretty standard for the class, hydraulic, nice thick rotors, seem like they work pretty well. Now, the seat is actually really comfy. It's apparently 30% more padding than previous models, and you actually notice that. It's not a very long seat, but it is cushy, so your butt is not feeling like you're sitting on a plank of wood. It comes with 4 keys, which you use to remove the batteries. It also has a full screen that shows you all the necessary info you need as far as which power mode you're in, as well as dual or single motor drive, and of course tachometer, speedometer, battery, and so on. On top of all that, you've got suspension front and rear, 35 mile an hour claimed top speed. We'll test that. 450 pound load capacity, so you and your girlfriend can fit on the back. And it's even IP65 water resistant. Rain, snow, or sleet, you have no excuse to tell your boss that you can't get to work. The bike also comes with a fairly standard charger, which is surprisingly well packaged. Well, with all of that out of the way, Grant is gonna throw on his full face helmet to ride a bicycle. Let's go. And we're on the bike, guys, as you can tell. Now, there's gonna be one thing you'll probably hear. Yeah, this front wheel is installed perfectly, I promise you. Regarding the brake issue, I am a worm mechanic, but I installed this 100% correct. We have the bolts that hold this in here, and we have one bolt on each side. I installed it exactly as they showed us in the video, and this thing's still just dragged. No matter what I do, I don't know if it's bent. It really just looks like it's way too close. This is way too close to the rotor, and it's actually rubbing on the rotor itself. So this part of the brake caliper itself is rubbing on the rotor. So I don't know what to do about that. I messed with it for like an hour trying to fix it. I couldn't get it to work, but we're just gonna ignore the sound. Before we get started, cockpit, pretty straightforward. You have your lights. To turn on your lights, you hold the plus button. You'll see it shows lights here now. You have a high beam and a low beam. Pretty standard, straightforward. Then you also have your turn signals, right and left, and it also comes with a horn. Here's the signals in the back. It also has a brake light. We'll turn off the lights here. All right, on the screen, it's actually a pretty nice screen. You'll see there's a couple modes. When you turn the bike on, let's turn it off quick. So when you turn the bike on, this thing actually has a password. So it'll show the Milad screen. I just made the password 0000, and now you can see the screen. So we've got modes here, and you also can see the little bike with the highlighted orange. That is which drive mode you're in. So we're gonna put it all the way into 1, pedal assist, and we're gonna do dual. So that shows both of them in orange. To go, you can either just pedal. Once you start to pedal, it'll start to move. Anyways, you also have a Shimano gear shifter here, but you also have a thumb throttle. So you can just use the thumb throttle. Oh, my freaking kickstand. All right, so you also have your speedo on here, your trip, as well as the amount of time you've been riding, I guess, from when you put the bike on, and just an overall odometer. So we're actually going pretty quick in this mode, 29, almost up to 30 uphill in mode 1. I'm not pedaling at all, I'm just using the thumb throttle. But let's move up in modes. This claims up to 35, so let's see what we can't do. We're up to 34. 36 on the downhill, so pretty good, pretty decent. And I will say this is a pretty budget bike, so it's literally $15.99. It's more expensive than a Tudio, I'll tell you that, but it's actually a lot bigger. Physically, it's much larger. I think this is going to be good if you want really like a commuter. And we're going 29 on the flat, 31, 32, 33, and we're in dual motor mode, so front and rear wheel are both on. And yeah, we're cruising uphill at about 33, pretty decent speed. Getting a little wobble here, but I gotta say the seat is actually super comfortable. I'm sorry, I know that sounds probably horrid, but so yeah, top speed right in and around 35. This is definitely gonna be a commuter, but let's see how it feels off-road. It's got these like sort of all-terrain tires, but they're much more suited for the street. It does have a good amount of torque off the line, I won't lie. Suspension is just hydraulic suspension. You know, about what you'd expect in a bike like this. Not horrible, but not good either. I don't think that anyone buying this bike is buying it with plans of off-roading, that is for sure. But if you are, you can do some basic stuff, but it's obviously not going to be great. Can we get up? Let's see if it can climb up this. Look at that, mode 5, it doesn't want to climb this, even with these big wheels. There we go, just need a little run up. I won't lie, from like a slow start, it definitely picks up and it slides my butt back on the seat a little bit. So it's got torque, it's pretty quick. The tune is about what you'd expect for a bike like this. Not the most linear, not the most predictable in the world, but it works. And that's what happens when you have these budget bikes. But when I look at a bike like this, it's definitely something that I would just see as strictly a commuter. You're obviously not buying this bike to stunt, to go to ride outs. It's just not what it's made for. It works well, it looks cool. The seat is actually pretty comfy, but it's not like the type of bike that I would buy, obviously. This would be something I wouldn't give a shit about and would just, you know, ride over to my buddy's place and not worry about it, you know what I mean? Whereas like the RTR, I wouldn't want to just like leave that outside somewhere. This one, I wouldn't really care as much, but it gets the job done. It gets pretty good range. You can just take the battery right off, bring it inside. It definitely has value. Oh yeah, suspension feels it there, but I feel like this would be like a really good Uber Eats style bike because it has security features like the GPS, the password, all that. And it's really good on range and you can pedal it, so you're not going to have trouble with like law enforcement if you're not allowed to ride Surons in your area. And look at this, this is just pedaling. It's kind of crazy how that works. The pedaling, like you just barely move your legs and it's all the power, and we're going 24. That's pretty cool actually. Pedal a little quicker. Alright, we need to do the wheelie test for you guys. What's interesting on this bike is this is your rear, this is your front. It's like a standard bicycle style. This does have brake sensors though, so the second you hit the brake, you're gonna lose your wheelie, but I don't think it's got quite the juice. Let's put it into just rear wheel. Just rear wheel. Okay, ready? Mode 5. Even with the pedals. Oh man, it's like she's fighting it. That's the one thing, once this thing gets to a certain height, the motor doesn't work anymore, so it won't give it power anymore past a certain height. But again, it has brake sensors too, so definitely not a wheelie bike. This is just like a commuter bike, something you can get to, you know, if you're in the city, not use a car, if you're like have bike trails around you, just to scoot around on much easier, much quicker. Because it's not really that expensive compared to like e-bikes as a whole, but it's actually pretty decent quality for what it is. Would I personally buy it? No. I would never personally buy something like this, but that's just me. Because I don't use these bikes for their purposes. I use them to stunt because that's what I enjoy doing. All right, so I definitely noticed there's a hell of a lot less power in single motor mode there versus dual. You're not gonna get as good of battery life, obviously, but the fact that you have two of these is sick. You just have like a backup battery on the bottom. So I do think this will probably get pretty good range. I'm not gonna range test it because I have no desire. But for something to cruise on bike paths with, something to commute on, it's definitely a good option for that. I just wish this brake rotor wasn't so cooked, but you know. Yeah, it's just interesting because this is actually like a super long swing arm. It's actually surprising, like when you go to lift the bike up, how much longer the swing arm is than normal. I feel like typically, like instead of being there, the wheel would be like a lot closer in. So that helps make it more stable, which is definitely an added bonus, but it also makes it more cumbersome. If you're trying to bring it into an apartment that's a small space, it's kind of more cumbersome. Plus, this bike isn't that light for what it is. It looks pretty light, like exoskeleton style, but I think it's like around 100 pounds, so not the lightest thing to carry around. Whee! Yeah, just as a bike to have to kind of screw around on and just have something. Like, I literally look at this and it is decently stable, I'll give it that. I ride a lot of bikes like this that I'm afraid to take my hands off of. But anyways, it is, whoa, and we got the pedal assist. Let's go. It honestly isn't bad. I think for the price, like what's crazy is I feel like you're getting a lot of the same features out of this as you would like a Super 73. And ideally your front rotor doesn't come bent, but you're really getting a lot of the same features. So for only $16.99, I think this is like a perfect commuter option. Gets the job done. And that's all you really ask of it. You don't ask it to be a crazy good off-road performer. You don't ask it to do anything but get you from point A to point B without having to pedal yourself. But definitely a more inconspicuous way of getting around. I'm sure some kids could wheelie it. I personally cannot. Surprisingly tall. If you're a shorter guy or gal, you're actually going to be surprised. It's a pretty good height, pretty good size. I'm 5'11", and I get flat-footed, obviously, but it actually sits a lot higher than the e-bikes I typically see. Well, guys, huge shout out to Milad, I think that's how you pronounce it, for sending this thing over. If you're interested in it, I'll leave his link down below in the description. If you have any questions, please feel free also to leave them down in the comments. Otherwise, guys, we are on our road to 100K subs. I don't know if videos like this are going to get me to 100K subs, but I do hope you enjoyed this. I hope you found this video helpful if you are interested in this bike. But yeah, I'll leave a link down in the description for this bike. You can get a discount with my code. I'll also leave that in the description. But otherwise, guys, I will see you very, very soon. Peace.